Oh, it's me, John Wicks, the site pastor in Clinton for Vitalpoint Church. And I'm not on this very often, but welcome to the Vital Moments podcast. And with me today is Amy Stevenson, who's, you know what, Amy, what is your job title now? Why don't you tell us?
When I'm doing this stuff, I'm just part of the teaching team. But the reality of my position, it's evolving right now, with being in Poplar Hill, but I am overseeing Alpha and like across all the sites of working with you guys as site pastors and making that happen and as a hub church. And then I still manage the facilities here in Poplar Hill. So that's pretty fun, and guest services and hospitality, that kind of thing. So I did tell Josh, I'm like, just don't even put my title up there, because I joked before, it should just be like, I still do stuff.
Still does stuff. Still does a lot of important stuff. We'll talk about Alpha more towards the end, I think, of our time together today. But yes, truly, Alpha is one of those foundational pillar bedrock kind of things here at Vitalpoint Church. And yeah, we're excited to see how that continues to grow. But yes, you are part of the teaching team here at Vitalpoint, which is great and wonderful. I always enjoy sitting and listening and learning from you whenever you're up there. So you bring your own perspective, which is great. One of the things that's really nice about having several people on the teaching team is you do hear different voices and you get different expressions and different perspectives. So, you led us in a great conversation yesterday, as we actually hadn't finished with our Easter series yet, even though Easter had come and gone. We actually had one more week in our Easter series, and the conversation was around hope is alive.
Yeah.
So maybe let's start us off. Why would we want to continue Easter after Easter is over?
Yeah, I love that we've taken our time throughout the Easter season with these conversations. But actually, Dale, the site pastor in Poplar Hill, yesterday sort of made the joke of like, we'll be celebrating Easter, and then like looks at his watch, he's like, forever, because it's the whole point. And it was so good. But I think, yeah, there's so much that's happening here. And even this conversation around hope being alive as the resurrection of Jesus is not just a historical event, but actually like marked a beginning for all of creation and humanity. And I think that it was so good that we took our time instead of trying to squeeze it all into one weekend, like giving each of these pieces significance. Yeah. And so this whole conversation again was around hope is alive as a result of the resurrection of Jesus, and holding these two realities together of the present power that we have, but the future promise that we also have as a result of this. So it was so great and like we said, like we could spend a whole year unpacking what the resurrection means and different ideas and practicalities around that. But we tried to, as best we could, breeze it in 30 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, it's no small thing to talk about the hope that we have, that is alive, and like try to encapsulate that into one message. But the reality is, as you mentioned, this is actually something that incorporates every Sunday, every week, every day, every moment for those who are followers of Jesus, right? Who recognizing that like this is not just like this past thing that happened, right? But it's an ongoing thing. Maybe let's kind of start off with some of the stuff it was covered in your talk. One of the things that you talked about is this idea of like a new identity, actually. And I think
did my truck joke land? It's really
sorry. What you have to refresh my memory. The truck joke.
No, because I don't know. Sometimes because we are services in Poplar Hill, but this new identity, right? Like we can find that in so many things. And sometimes I don't know. You see people in life like, oh, they now do CrossFit. No shade intended, and this isn't wrong, but like some people it becomes their whole personality, right? And so I kind of made a joke that like, yeah, you get your new Ford truck, and suddenly it's your whole personality. You talk different, you act different, but this idea is so much deeper than that. And I think it's something as like we talked about, me, you and Tony before any of this finalization of this message of this idea that all of us are born as humans into an identity. It's not just your parents, your family, the color of your skin, your cultural context that you live in, but it's actually the fact that all of us are born as sons and daughters of Adam and Eve. Therefore, we're born into this cursed identity of brokenness. And although God made them and said it was very good, they chose their own way. They chose and brought that curse of death, of spiritual death, but also a physical death, the inability to like do what is good, to walk in a relationship fully with God. And so we get this new identity that is with Jesus. So we're buried with him, but then we rise with him, and we now get to take on his identity as a son. And I love this moment. Didn't quite fit into the talk, but there's this moment where Jesus again meets Mary Magdalene in the garden, and she thinks he's the gardener. And then they end up having this conversation. He says something about his father and then makes reference of like, now your father. And so there's this turning point that happens where we are no longer enemies of God, where like, yeah, we're wrestling to even know him, to walk in his ways, all this stuff, but we actually get to call God Father ourselves. And before that, we see everyone, the Israelites always refer to, our father is Abraham. And it's this natural lineage. And now our lineage goes beyond that, but actually we are co-heirs with Christ. We become a son and a daughter, just like Jesus was. And so that whole identity shifts for us, and who do we belong to and who we are. And no matter where you are, what you do, like your life looks like, your identity is not in any of those things, but it's in Jesus. And it's a profound mystery and yet so cool at the same time.
I think it's actually a really wonderful point to like hone in on here, like talking about identity, because like so often people get their identity from things in this world, from relationships, from their job, from their family, like all these things. And as we know, like those things aren't stable. Those things ultimately are, flawed because they're born out of a human system, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Relationships end, or hurt happens, families are broken, your job, you lose your job, or you're not as successful as the other person, and you end up in this comparison game. And we attach ourselves to these things, and that's where this identity, we draw our identity and our value from. And God says there's actually, your identity is found in me.
Yeah.
Which is
and
amazing,
even further
right?
than that, like not even just about what we do or things, like we take on this identity like that we're not good enough, or our identity is in our brokenness. And I see this a lot happening even right now, of like people, finding their diagnosis to like their mental health problems or something like that. And that's not to roll your eyes at all, but like you are actually so much more than that. You are not your brokenness. You are not that broken story, but rather you get to take on the righteousness of Jesus and walk in a new life that we talked about, with a new spirit, and as a new creation, as a marker. I actually love this little piece I was reading. I got this like little devotional book from an Alpha event, but in it talked about your resurrection life is not a private experience or a soothing metaphor, but a stubborn public reality. So like the resurrected life that you experience, yes, it's beautiful, it's wonderful. And it's so great to me, because I was talking to a couple people obviously about this yesterday. A couple people reach out through Instagram or a text and things like that. And this idea is that so many of us actually experience this before we understand the theological concepts behind this. And that's what I think is so cool, is the Christian faith is not just about a knowledge, but actually a real lived in experience. That it's okay that if you don't know everything, and that's not an excuse to like be more biblically literate or understand these things more, but there's a lived in reality here that you can see in someone's life that they can't explain it. They just know, hey, I checked out at Alpha, or I came on Sunday morning, or had this conversation with a person, and like it is different inside of me that I can't even fully explain. And it's like, actually, the Bible does explain this for us and gives us a new understanding of that. But yeah, like all these pieces we can so just naturally live into. And then I've been wrestling with this, John, of like, so often that new believer has that sort of conversion experience. And some of it's instantaneous and some of it, like, we're all in process. We're all in the process of sanctification. It's not like, oh, I'm in Jesus now. I grew
Love
up
that
in
word.
yeah, like, we're in process. And so it doesn't mean, like, I don't know. And so I think about, someone who's been through Alpha, and you watch that conversion happen. You watch them walk in and walk out with like a different identity, a different sense of purpose, a new hope that they've found through a relationship with Jesus. And it's so exciting because Alpha is called Alpha for a reason. It's just the beginning. And I think some of us can, maybe we're following Jesus for a long time. We can lose sight of actually the fact that we are still in process. We are still being shaped and formed into the new creation. Are we even still walking in the full identity of the resurrected Savior? Like, I wrestled with this yesterday in live, and I said a little bit in the recording, but have we just stopped at Jesus loves me and he died for my sins, and he forgives me, and I have an eternity with him? Like, have we just kind of just stopped at that instead of like the present power that actually the resurrection is doing inside of us? I was thinking with that analogy of like the heart of flesh versus a heart of stone. And like, what does that look like to actually have resurrection life, blood pumping through your body, animating your life? Everything that you do is a result of Jesus and what he has done, and the fact that Jesus is alive right here, right now. Anyways, I don't know what your question was. I got off on a tangent there, but I think there's so many pieces here to wrestle with.
Yeah,
and all of us are in different stages of this, and it's so good.
I mean, there's so many directions. Like we've talked about this new identity. Which kind of leads into like this idea of a new creation, which I love that idea of new creation. And I especially was thinking about that and I'm glad you just mentioned this heart of stone. It comes from Ezekiel. And you mentioned this, and this idea of like, we all have like this hardness inside of us.
Yeah.
And like, I don't think any of us is excused from this. Like, we have bits and pieces. We have hard, like this idea of like an actual heart of stone. It's like, it's hard, right? It's hard towards the things of God, right?
Yeah.
And God's like, I'm going to give you this new heart. I was just kind of wondering, like, for maybe for a couple different things, for like those maybe who are followers of Jesus, they can still suffer from hard hearts, even towards the things of God. And maybe expand upon that idea a little bit more of this heart of stone that gets turned into something new, something else.
Yeah. I wonder, John, if sometimes the best example is our compassion towards those who have not encountered Jesus. Is that a really good evidence of that, right? Of allowing a heart to be moved by what moves his. Like Poplar Hill last week, we had this crazy experience where our middle service was just packed out. Of course, the first time we don't do tickets to help spread everyone out is the week that it goes absolutely wild. And there were moments, even on our Good Friday service, like my family came for the second service on Good Friday, and I walked up to them like, I'm sorry, guys, you guys are going to have to get out. Like, this isn't like who's more important, but it's the reality of like, we're willing to lay down our opportunity in order for someone else to come and encounter that. And so I think sometimes when we're willing to walk in a sacrificial manner, in a servant manner towards other people, to prefer them over ourselves, is evidence to me of a heart of flesh that is beating for what beats for God. But I think too, and I'll use the example in my own life, it is hard to lead, but it's also hard to follow. And there's so many times where it's hard for me, as I know many of us, to be vulnerable, to be in that place of like, I need prayer for this right now, or I'm really struggling and I need help. Like, asking for help is so difficult. And yet that heart of stone would cause us to be like, no, I'll just figure it out. Just me and God will sort this out. But heart of flesh actually is willing to be vulnerable, is willing to go into those moments and ask for help, ask for prayer, and learning to live into that thing. And there's a piece of actually, it's way harder for your heart to be soft than it is to be hard, because it means that, yeah, you're vulnerable. You're vulnerable to being broken. You're vulnerable to disappointment. And yet there's such a beauty in that, because like, that's a part of the human experience that God can find us in the middle of and just fill it with his divine presence in that moment of hurt and pain and suffering, and to allow our hearts to stay soft towards him, towards what he asks of him, and not grow hard of like, oh, I'm good. Like I've got it set. I just don't need anything more one way or another. So yeah, I think there's a lot of pieces where we could examine, is my heart soft in these things, or is it hard? Am I stubborn, or am I being willing to let my heart break for what breaks God's heart, and being willing to be corrected by him, to be directed by him? Or are we just like, nope, go to church, I do the things, and I'm good?
Yeah. I think, that I find that I love that part. I find it challenging for myself, and I thought it was important for other people to hear. Just like, and you tied that well with this idea of like, is my heart soft? Does it break for what breaks God's heart? Is it in alignment with God's own heart? And one of those things is God has a heart for those that are far from Him. And I think it's very easy sometimes to sit in a church and just be like, okay, well, what's this doing for me? And like, we want things to, like, as a church, as staff and stuff, we want people to learning and growing, but there's also like the remembering that like, this is also not just about you. It's for that person, that like that empty chair that's beside you. Is like, how do we fill that seat so that person can come and experience the resurrection power, can come experience a living hope.
Because one thing I want to throw in quick, because I know we are getting short on time, but like, because a part of that is that we live into that resurrection as conduits, as a people who walk and see, because part of that resurrection is the guaranteed elimination of all that is evil and death itself, and yet we still can participate in that. Allowing our hearts to be soft, to be moved with compassion to someone who is clearly experiencing that struggle of the devil, the flesh, and the world. Like those, like that Jesus, his resurrection overcame those things. So if our hearts are not soft to be able to be willing to be broken for another person, like we are not walking truly in that resurrection life of what does it mean to extend that to someone, to see them released, to see those bondages of flesh or oppression of demonic, because let's be honest, this is a reality. Like we get to walk and see people walk in freedom with this like taste of here and yet not fully there. So I think you're going to live a very boring Christian life if you just settle for Jesus has forgiven my sins, which is still incredible, stunning miracle. But there's so much more. There's so much more.
Yeah. I mean, I think we could talk about this all day with the Heart of Stone.
I love chatting with you about this stuff, John.
Part of it is, I don't want to forget this aspect of that either, is like the new heart that is actually desiring to please God, to live to please God, right? Like that, and that's like a huge component of this too. Where like our heart is moved by the things of God, but also moved to a place where we actually want to please God and do what honors Him.
Yeah. And not see it as a restrictive set of rules, but actually, oh my goodness, this is what is good. He does mean good for me.
Yeah. But we'll move on to something else now. Maybe we'll unpack that more in a future. Who knows? We'll see. Part of, I mean, I feel like I want to bring up calling people rats, but I probably shouldn't spend too much time on that.
Okay. But I will say this. So you have to listen to the talk. I do use this experiment analogy of that is commonly referred to as the hope experiment, with these rats being dropped in water. And it's wild because you write these things and you have this sense, but you don't always know how that's going to come out. And you're like, oh, am I just like shooting blind here? First service in Poplar Hill, there's this couple. We finish, everyone starts clearing out because we got a tight timeline between the two. And they are just holding each other, completely breaking down, like bawling, just holding each other. Younger couple, they have I think he's 1.5 or so, 18, 24 months. And I know them a little bit. So I just grab the tissue box at minimum because they are bawling. And I just bring it over, and through tears, she looks at me. She's like, Amy, it was the rats at the end. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so it was like kind of a chuckle, but she's like, that's exactly how I feel, of this feeling of drowning in the chaotic waters of life. But anyway, sorry, ask your question, but it's as funny as it is. It's like, oh, that's what really hit home, that analogy God used. So great.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to bring it around back again to the hope piece. And so talking about the rats, if you don't understand what we're talking about, you're going to have to go check out the message. Amy relayed this experiment about rats and how they survive longer while drowning if you give them, when you give them some hope.
Yeah.
I want to take that a little bit further though, and then expand on that, because it's not just like this idea of survival, right? Yeah, and we've already talked about this, but a little bit, but like it's not just hope for survival or hope for the future, right? And I was just wondering if you could just maybe touch on that, because I think you used the word tension, which we maybe use at Vitalpoint a lot, because I think it's appropriate, because there is a tension between we're like, okay, well, I have this future hope, but like, what am I experiencing right now?
Yeah,
in this present reality.
Yes. Because there's this piece I actually started using. It just came out in one of the services yesterday. But the idea of like, remember those Lay's chips commercial, but you just can't have one?
Oh, yeah.
Or I said it wrong. But anyways, but there's this tension that we sit in of the present power that we have, but also the future promise. So we get this part where it's here, but it's not yet. Like I'm made into a new creation, yet I'm not fully living into the new creation in the fullness of that. I have identity in Christ, but I don't actually experience that in full until the other side. And so I love the way, and I leaned on NT Wright for a lot in this talk and his ideas. He's a New Testament scholar, brilliant, gentle, kind man. And he talks about how actually it's in this tension where we find so much beauty and hope, because if it was only about here and now, that's it. Like we just get this taste. We get this taste of perfection. We get this taste of hope, of eternity, of God's goodness, of his presence, of his divine intervention in our lives. And we just get a taste of that, and that's it. Then death has the final say, right? But if it was only about the future, then it's so disconnected from our reality here. How do I keep going? How do I live into every day? And how, like, the hope that we have that we get to be a part of people's stories of extension, that good news to people and those things. And so living in the tension, as hard as it can be, of like, oh, it's here, but it's not yet. Like I still struggle and wrestle with my flesh and with sin and with the brokenness that's inside of me, and just wanting to, like, when am I done being made new? Like it's hard, but yet there's beauty in it, because it gives us this present power also in partnership with this future promise, and how living in that might be difficult, but it's beautiful. So I think that is a good way to wrap this up, to like not be discouraged, but like keep going. Right now you have what you need, but it will be made in full guarantee in the future. So that's a great way to end this. Thanks so much, John.
Yeah. All right, everyone. We're going to wrap our conversation today. I do want to talk about Alpha quickly here at the end. Alpha is happening at four of our 5 sites.
Yeah,
so it's
just
happening
not Grand Bend right now, but
just not in Grand Bend. But you can still sign. There's still time. Go to our website, vitalpointchurch.com/alpha. Sign up for Alpha. Pick the location that's close to you. And check it out. Like, just really encourage you to check it out. Maybe you're like unsure and you're like, you know what? Come for the first week, come for the first couple of weeks and just check it out. See if it's for you. It's going to be for you. So I'm just going to say,
you never know till you try. Yeah.
That's right.
And hey, if this one doesn't work out for you, guess what? We will definitely be doing it again. It'll come back around before you know it. So there's always an opportunity.
We want to provide lots of opportunity throughout the year. Different times work for different people. We understand that. So Alpha does return, but yet we are gearing up. It's going to start this Wednesday at our locations. That's April 15th. I think they're mostly at 6:30, but you have to check your individual sites for individual specifics.
You're right.
Yeah. Well, I know that one in Clinton's at 6:30, so I'll be there. with a great room of people and looking forward to enjoying each other's company and some wonderful food. Of course. Anyway, that's it for the show. I guess we call it a show. I don't know, the podcast. There we go. Thanks so much to Amy for being here. Thanks so much Amy for leading us through a wonderful conversation yesterday. Hope everyone has a great day, great week, or whenever you're listening to this, a great time. And we'll talk to you soon. Peace.
Thanks.